Hey there guys, and welcome to FP1, and let's finally have a chat about the Russian Grand Prix. Now, apologies, this video is a few days late. That's just because I was a little bit ill over the weekend. I did try to record the video, but it was just not up to the quality that I want it to be in order to upload it onto the channel. But hey, we're doing it now. Lots of things to talk about, lots of big off-track news. Maybe the on-track action wasn't quite as exciting. But yeah, several big stories to speak about today. So before the weekend even got going, then we had two big news stories from McLaren and then Torro Rosso. Firstly, let's start with McLaren, and as they've now switched to, well, they will switch to Mercedes engines starting from the 2021 season. Now, this, of course, is big news. McLaren's last Mercedes partnership ended at the end of 2014, where, of course, they endured some beautiful years with Honda, some fantastic results there. They did really well. I don't know why they left Honda, to be honest. I think that was a massive mistake on their part. But, okay, no, seriously, this is really, really good for McLaren. I think it's what could be that turning point that just jumps them up from the top end of the midfield, maybe into fighting with Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes in 2021. Obviously, lots of things changing, but the engine regulations, well, they were going to change. They've pushed that back down to 2024 now. So what that means is that the Mercedes engine come 2021 is most likely going to be, well, if not the best engine, one of the best engines on the grid. So it's going to be very, very good for McLaren. This, of course, doesn't really help Renault very much. It would mean they'll probably just be supplying themselves from 2021 onwards, unless, say, a new team come in and decide to take a Renault engine, but make that bizarre decision. Hey, you never know. I mean, that said, we have got a few new teams coming, well, a few new hopeful teams coming to the grid in 2021. You never know, one could side with Renault. But as it's looking at the moment, not great in the boardroom over there in France. The other big team sort of news, I guess, that came out of the Russian Grand Prix was surprisingly from Torro Rosso. This came out of the blue. They have requested the FIA of a name change. So no more Scuderia Torro Rosso. That, of course, promotes their Red Bull's energy drinks brand, just like the main team does. They want to switch the name to Alpha Tauri. Now, this has kind of got a bit of a mixed review, I think, among F1 fans. I'm actually all for the change. I think it's quite nice. I think it's got a nice ring to it. Bit of change on the grid. I'm not going to complain with that. Could mean a livery change as well, which I guess people aren't so happy with because that blue Torro Rosso looks pretty incredible at the moment, I'll be honest. But yeah, for those that don't know, AlphaTauri is Red Bull's clothing brand, and I'm pretty sure there'll be quite a few people that don't know. I had no idea it existed either, but I guess that's the whole point, just to really get it out, get that name out there, and just, yeah, improve the publicity and marketing of that product. And it makes sense, really. We've already got a team promoting Red Bull's energy drink brand. You don't really need to promote that drink anymore. Everyone knows what it is. So why not promote a clothing firm? It makes sense. But now then, let's get into the actual race. Not too much to talk about. There are a few big stories. Let's start with the lap one, the beginnings. There are quite a few things to talk about here, though, in fairness. I didn't even notice Vettel got into the lead coming into turn one, to be honest. I was more focused on the midfield battle and Carlos Sainz's fantastic start that put him third, I think, at one point as we came down to turn two. Brilliant start from him. And Norris didn't do too badly off the start as well. Of course, at the front, though, Vettel's fantastic start. Got past Hamilton using the toe and just slipped it down the inside of Leclerc. I don't think Charles was particularly expecting Seb to make a move, but he did. And to be fair, from then on, just controlled the race up until the pit stops. He was miles ahead of Leclerc by the time he pitted. And really, it looked like the Vettel of old. It looked like 2013 Vettel, where he gets into the front of the pack and just drives away into the sunset. Obviously, that didn't happen, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I think a fantastic race from Vettel today. I think he got driver of the day, and to be fair, well-deserved. Now, on the flip side, Kimi Räikkönen's start, not so good. So I think he went on the fifth red light rather than when the lights went out, which is a bit bizarre. I guess the lights have been going out quite quickly over the last few races, and maybe he just, I don't know, took a guess. I don't know. I don't feel like that's... He's had, 19 odd seasons in Formula 1, 18, 19 seasons. That doesn't... No, I couldn't see him doing that. Maybe his finger just slipped off the clutch pedal. I guess we'll never know. Bit of a weird weekend. He didn't have the cleanest qualifying either. I think he went out in Q1 and a bit of a scrappy Q1 lap. So yeah, a bit of a weird one from Raikkonen. I mean, Giovinazzi did not do great either. I mean, there was that clash, which we'll get onto in a second, in turn 4. and he just sort of fell behind. I imagine he had some sort of damage, but he was the last of the classified finishes, Giovinazzi. Raikkonen brought it back to 13th, which was okay. Not a fantastic weekend for Alfa in general. They've sort of fallen behind. I think as the second half of the season has moved on, Alfa just slowly slipped further and further behind. Same thing with Torro Rosso, really, but hey, we'll get into them as well in a minute. So lastly, to talk about on lap 1 is, of course, the crash between Grosjean, Daniel Ricciardo, and, of course, Antonio Giovinazzi. So going to turn 4, I think it was, it looked like Giovinazzi just got squeezed by the Renault and the Haas. Grosjean, for once, I don't think was in the wrong. I remember when watching it, I was just like, I prayed to watch the replay and just see George Russell steam it up the inside and take out Grosjean. It's a bit of payback from Singapore, but no, it wasn't the case. I think, again, don't think Grosjean did anything wrong. I'd say racing incident. I mean, I'm a Daniel Ricciardo fan. I think if I had to place blame anywhere, maybe 50-50 Ricciardo Giovinazzi, but yeah, it's a difficult one to call. I think it's first lap, all the cars being sort of squeezed together, and I think it's a fair point that no one gave any penalties for that. Of course, that gave Ricciardo a puncture. He fell back, and then they retired on lap 24. I kind of think Renault might be kicking themselves, and they retired to save the engine. But of course, 2 laps later, we had that big safety car with Vettel going out and all of that, which again we'll get onto. But yeah, I think Renault probably made a bit of a mistake, and a weekend where, I mean, Hülkenberg only got P10, they really could have got more out of it, I think. So we spoke about Kimi Raikkonen struggling. Alexander Albon, a bit of a difficult weekend as well. I mean, he had no confidence really coming into the weekend, crashed in qualifying, which didn't help him either. And yeah, he got P5, but that's kind of where we expect him to be. He was still, 24 seconds behind his teammate, Verstappen. And just a bit of a scrappy weekend in general. And although I'm pretty certain he'll be confirmed for that seat no matter what he does, I think Helmut Marko came out and said that it's basically a straight fight between Albon and Gasly, which means it's a straight fight between Albon and nobody else. Yeah, it's... I don't know. I mean, it started relatively promising, but I think they're picking up Albon a little bit too much. I think the pressure might have got to him a little bit. Let's just hope he can pull it back in the last 5 races of the season. So let's get on then to the big, really talking point in the first sort of opening period of the race. As I said, Vettel steaming away from Leclerc. He got to about 4 seconds at some point. Just before he pitted. And Ferrari came over the radio and tell them to swap over. And I was livid. And I can't think of anyone, bar maybe Leclerc fans, that weren't livid at this. It does ruin the racing. And I said this in the Singapore sort of video, that I think they just need to start clamping down the rules on team orders again, because it does ruin the spectacle a little bit. We could have seen Leclerc try to catch up and overtake Vettel, but are they going to do that? No, they just say, you know what, we'll make the swap. Vettel then comes back and says, you know what, well, okay, catch me if you can, and drives off into the sunset. In which case Ferrari then just leave him out on worn tyres so Leclerc can get him past the pit stops, and it really does now feel like a change in the guard. We said it in Italy, where of course Leclerc dominated that weekend. And in qualifying, he has definitely got the edge over Vettel. But I think in race pace, Vettel can sometimes get him back. And I just think it's a bit of a shame. I think really Vettel came into the season as a de facto leader of that team, and that there was no question behind that. And the fact that 16 or 17 races later, he's now being told to move away for his less experienced teammate seems a little bit weird and a little bit unfair for Ferrari, given the amount that Vettel has kind of added to that team over the last 5 seasons or so. But of course, then it didn't really matter, because lap 26 and Vettel's MG UK gave up the ghost, and that was upsetting. I think he was upset over the radio. You could sort of tell. Bring back the V12s, he said, with an expletive in there somewhere. And yeah, I mean, as much as I'd love for that to happen, I don't think it will. Maybe in the future, if Formula E can maybe if Formula E took away all the constructors and there's no real commercial gain from Formula 1, they might consider going back to just the pure spectacle, bringing back those V12s. I doubt it, but I mean, I get his point that the new hybrid engines are still unreliable, and they just, albeit they're better than the V12s that we had in terms of efficiency and the commercial aspect, and how useful they are to the teams. But I do miss the V12s. I think everyone does, and if they could bring the sound back with the hybrids, I'm not going to complain. I think the sound is what a lot of people are really moaning about, but we've been moaning about that for about 7 years now. So hey, but yeah, it was upsetting to see him retire. I think other than it was obviously a big turning point in the race because that, of course, meant Leclerc's strategy got messed up and Mercedes came in for the 1-2 with Hamilton first, Bottas second, and Leclerc ended up nowhere because of them pitting, which we'll get onto. But yeah, Ferrari almost screwed themselves with that. I guess there wasn't much they could really do. They did say that Vettel couldn't crawl it back to the pits and stop that safety car without further damaging his engine. And at the end of the day, they want to keep that engine alive for as long as possible. Last thing they need really is just to put Vettel in for another penalty in, say, Suzuka, where he is quite good in fairness. But hey, I mean, the other thing that gets me with the team orders, actually going back to that, is the fact that they're not really fighting for the Constructors of the Drivers' Championship anymore. Maybe Constructors if you think they're fight with Red Bull, though I think they've really got the edge over them. And I kind of got where they were coming from last week in Singapore, where they said, we need a 1-2. It doesn't matter what way round the cars are. We just want the 1-2 for the points. That makes sense. Well, why then are you trying to switch it around just 1 week later in Russia? It doesn't really clock with me. And hey, I guess we'll never really know the answer to that one. So as a final point, then let's just talk about Charles Leclerc's strategy after that virtual safety car. I think Ferrari, when they get backed into a corner, it's when they start making these silly decisions. And let's think about the circuit characteristics of Russia. It's a hard track to overtake on. It's not an easy circuit to pass on at all. And they've put Leclerc back behind the Mercedes, thinking, oh, but yeah, he's on better tyres and, well, tyres that have more life in them. But this is an extremely difficult track to overtake on, and we saw that. He couldn't even get past Bottas. Got a bit close, but just that DRS just wasn't strong enough. I wonder if, I'm not as much of a fan of DRS as the next guy, but if they move that DRS detection zone back a little bit, just give him a little bit more space to run, because at the moment it's sort of on the curve of turn 1. What if they moved it back maybe halfway up the start-finish straight? Then maybe that makes it too powerful, but just to help the cars get a little bit closer and maybe alongside coming into the braking zone of turn 2. And I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been WTF1 or something. He made a very good point that the whole back end of that circuit, you got 4 90-degree corners before that long straight. And just the characteristic of those corners means that it's very, very difficult to get even close to the car behind because of the dirty air that the current generation of cars crop up behind them. Now, that's not something they can fix in time for the 2021 regulations, but it does make sense. Why have a circuit that is laid out like that, where the cars are going to fall behind each other before the one, maybe only really overtaking spot on the entire circuit? It doesn't really make sense to me. But hey, a bit of a weird Ferrari strategy then, pitting Leclerc again. I think had they left him out, the best chance he would have got was maybe second. I don't think he would have passed Hamilton. I think Hamilton really was in a league of his own by the end of it, and he wouldn't have even had the overtaking performance to get past him anyway. But I think they could definitely have got P2 with Leclerc today had they not on Sunday, had they not pitted him. But hey, those are just my opinions. Of course, let me know what your thoughts are on the Russian Grand Prix down below. I'll try to get back to as many of you as I can. And of course, don't forget to like, comment, and of course, subscribe to the channel. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.